Max, welcome.
How you doing, Luke?
I'm good,
to
mate.
be here.
Yeah, good.
This is my first ever podcast. So hopefully I'll put on a good show for you. You know, with
I'm sure you will, mate. I'm sure you will. Let's get started then. So, Max Scotford. Who is Max?
Yeah. So my name, Max Scotford. I'm the founder of Bullion chocolate. So we are a bean to bar craft chocolate producer. So basically, in the UK, you've got traditionally what's known as a chocolatier. That's someone who buys really good quality chocolate and makes it into things. So bars, truffles, filled chocolates, that sort of thing. What we do at Bullion, we kind of go the step before that and make the chocolate itself. So importing cocoa beans, we do everything from roasting them, grinding them, the whole shebang, like making it entirely from scratch. So
is that unique in Sheffield, in England?
Yeah, we're the first in the area to do it. When I started out 10 years ago, there was only around 5 companies in the UK genuinely making chocolate from scratch. So, even Cadbury's didn't make their chocolate in the UK. Now it's all made, one of the biggest chocolate manufacturers in the world is over in Belgium, and they tend to make the chocolate, and then that gets sent to each factory where they make it into the different chocolates. But in terms of genuinely making chocolate from scratch, there was around 5 back in 2015 when I was just thinking about doing Bullion, and I kind of see it now following in the footsteps of craft coffee, craft beer, that sort of almost like renaissance of making something. And for me it's chocolate, and obviously coffee and beers had a huge uptake. Like, people love craft beer, specialty coffee is huge. I'm kind of hoping one day specialty chocolate will have that same trajectory, but I've been at it 10 years now and it's still a slog. So but yeah, that's a bit about what we do at Bullion.
Take me back to how it started then, your story, your upbringing.
Yeah.
How did Bullion come to fruition?
Yeah, so I think growing up, I've always, like I said, I've always wanted to start my own business. I've always been that way inclined, and food, I'd say everybody loves food. I'm kind of quite passionate about food, and it was the only thing I was any good at school. That was my best GCSE. I then went to catering college, trained to be a chef. So all my decisions kind of, what I was working around was revolved around food. So naturally, when it came to business ideas, they always really stemmed from food. So obviously, I had a few ideas over the years. I think when I was 12, we live around the corner from a golf course in Dronfield, and I had an idea to make sandwiches for the 9th hole, and I called it Sandwich. And this is a 12-year-old, and my mum and dad have always been they've always been very encouraging of, like, it was a bit of fun, but it allowed me to sort of, explore that. And
do you think? Sorry, I'll stop you just briefly. Do you think it's you wanted a business before you knew you were going to do Bullion chocolate? Is it inbuilt in you? Was your parents a big influence or factor in that? I myself, I remember, I don't know how old I would have been, but I'd been just in primary school probably, and I would recreating Pokemon cards, setting a stall outside the house and selling them to the neighbours' kids, and no one told me to do that, but you just sort of, I just wonder,
felt natural to you.
I just wonder if it's inbuilt in some people or not.
For me, it definitely. I knew from an early age that I've always wanted to do my own thing. Not that I don't like working for people, or because I've had jobs, I've enjoyed working for different people and learning different things. But and I don't even think it was from a freedom point of view. For me, I think it was wanting to create and have something, and almost like a bit of a purpose, really. And and it's for me, I actually, I think if you did this and you didn't enjoy it, you'd probably, you'd end up resenting it. Like, I actually love, I love what I do, and I love, the people that I meet, building a team, creating something, putting it into the world. It's like, for me, it's like playing a video game, imagine putting all that time into a game, like on your PC or your Xbox, and you're building this character, and they want to get fitter, they go to the gym, they want to make money, they have to go and do, but instead of just playing it, you can actually, if you're willing to take the risk, you can build it for yourself. And I think for me, that sort of creativity, whether or not it's from my parents or, I do have mild dyslexia, and you see that a lot of these entrepreneurs like Richard Branson, I'm not comparing myself to some of these big wigs, but they all have a trait, which is they're dyslexic, and deep down maybe that has an impact. I struggled in school with like your sort of...
In terms of employment, so you're doing your own thing, is that what you mean, or just an underlying trait?
An underlying skill, I think for me, the dyslexia has allowed me to sort of creatively express sort of ideas and, imagine how things will be, and almost, I think a lot of people, there's not a fear factor for me when it comes to doing things. I'm willing to just get stuck in, and that might just be a natural trait anyway. But I think dyslexia has kind of opened up a creative side for me anyway. Whereas I have to think outside of the box. I couldn't, in school, like maths, English, terrible. I was the kid looking outside of the window, like thinking, what we're going to go and we're playing football at lunch, or anything that wasn't, sort of academic, had my interest. Whereas for me, my learning style wasn't like being told to do your times tables. It was actively doing things. And, I know business, obviously now, you've got to know your maths, and I think for me, because it's something I find genuinely interesting, I've been able to fully commit myself to it. And that might be the shift, but I don't have any problems now with doing financial forecasting, understanding how much we need to charge for an item to make money. It all sort of makes sense to me now, but when it's applied in a format that maybe makes sense for me. But definitely at school, I wasn't, I think I was predicted fails in everything. I actually didn't end up doing too bad in school, and obviously I went to university after that. But yeah, I mean, so touching on that, when I finished university, I worked for a software agency in sales and marketing. So I kind of trained as a chef, had a food background, a genuine passion for food, and now I had this sort of, for a year and a half, I was working in quite a tight-knit sales and marketing team. So it was going out, meeting people, negotiating, delivering a pitch, how to sell a product, how to sell something or persuade someone to buy something. And it would tell me, I'll tell you now, it was a lot harder to try and sell a software, piece to somebody than sell a chocolate bar, right? So that was a great. I had a director at the time who's called Gerard, and he was quite an old school director. And I think a lot of employees. Now I'm very, I'm quite understanding when somebody, if somebody doesn't do something well or they need support to get to where they need to be to do the job right. But he was very like, if I messed up, he not only let me know about it, he let the entire office know about it. So he was very old school in that sense, but it really made me good quick. And when I set up Bullion, I then combined those sort of skills of, my passion for food, but then with that business acumen. And it allowed me to, I wasn't just going to be one of those little brands that was selling at a farmer's market, and I wasn't going to play it. I had a real crystal clear vision for what I wanted to achieve with Bullion. And
at what age? When did Bullion start?
Yeah, so I was 21 when I had the idea for Bullion, and the reason why that came about was I basically watched a program on Channel 4 called Willy's Cacao, and this guy bought a cocoa plantation in Venezuela and basically started making chocolate in the UK from scratch. So I'd kind of worked with chocolate as an ingredient, so at college as a chef, but I didn't know you could actually make this stuff. And I got a little, after being inspired by that program, I got a little Indian spice grinder, which is what if I googled like, how do you make chocolate at home, and started doing it as a hobby basically. And that's all it was for around 6 months. It was a bit of fun because I was just genuinely interested in trying these different single origins and the way they taste from these different places. And it was opening up to a side of chocolate that I'd never seen before. And again, you can see it with coffee, how they do the single origin coffee, and they genuinely, coffees taste different depending on where they're from. With wine, they taste different on where they're from. They call it the terroir. I was kind of learning this for chocolate, but I was, the normal person hadn't been exposed to it. So for me, it was quite exciting because I felt like a bit of a pioneer, like, wow, I'm tapping into like a new side of chocolate. And all it was a hobby until I felt very lucky. I've already mentioned that I'd always been wanting to start my own business, and they've always rolled around food. I'm going to take you back to when I was 17, and I actually bought a trademark called Proyo for protein yogurt. Never did anything with it, but I just thought it was and also you've got to be...
So at 17, you were thinking, you weren't thinking like every other 17-year-old as... The next year I can go out, drink and booze. And
yeah, I mean, we did all that, but...
But at 17, there was no way I was thinking, I don't think, about buying a domain and selling it on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a trademark as well, and not many people would know even how to buy a trademark. And for me, I could see protein, and it was like frozen yogurt at the time as well. I was like, well, this could be quite a good product, and I trademarked it, the name was available, and I remember I used to work at Superdry when I was doing my studies, and I remember telling the people when they were like, it was almost like a laughing thing, like, buying it, what the hell are you wasting your money on that for? So it's not cheap, it's 200 quid to register a trademark, but I could see that I was like, that's going to work, it's a really good idea. And I didn't trademark it just for the sake. I genuinely had full intentions of trying to make that into a business. So I went out to Tideswell, to a dairy farm, and was asking them, like, how much would I need to buy? This is like as a 17-year-old.
So I'm with you. So this is pre-Bullion.
This is pre-Bullion.
This was the first idea.
One of many. When you're in my shoe, one of many ideas. But why I'm telling you about that particular instance is when I was 21 and I was in that sales and marketing role, I got a phone call from one of the biggest yogurt manufacturers in the country, and basically they launched Proyo in New Zealand, and they wanted to launch it in the UK, and then lo and behold, I had that bloody trademark that I bought when I was 17. So, it wasn't like life-changing amounts of money, but it was a good why. And so I sold that trademark to them, and I was 21 at the time. So, been playing around with chocolate, I had this idea. Next minute, I'd got a bit of cash, and I was like, well, when am I ever going to get a chance to sort of...
That's your investment.
Yeah, have a whirl at something. And so I kind of set out, and my job was really good with me. They let me go down to 3 days a week, so I could have 4 days on Bullion. And that was it. It was, for the next 6 months, it was almost like proving the concept. With that little bit of money that I had, I got some more gear. I could make a bit, more volume. And it was like I created like a minimal viable product, but also had the safety net of a job that was giving me a regular income. And 6 months into the role, into setting it up, I managed to secure like I think about 6 or 7 local retailers, so like independent coffee shops, people that were basically like the craft coffee and the craft beer, those sort of people that got it. And they sort of bought into the craft chocolate concept pretty quick, and we were the only ones in the area doing it. So, and like I said, I've been selling software for the last year. Selling a chocolate bar was relatively a lot easier. And who doesn't like chocolate, right? And the chocolate as well it's a genuine, for me, the product's that good. Like, it's not like a sell. It's almost like I'm introducing you to something which is genuinely good and is genuinely going to be a good product for you, and you're going to make money. We're going to be able to supply you, and the customer's going to be happy. But 6 months into it, I'd won these local gigs, and it was still very much an early stage company. But it wasn't until I secured Harvey Nichols 6 months in that
as early as that
it was. I literally, because I was doing sales for the 3 other days at this web agency, I wanted to supply Harvey Nichols because they're, the kudos of being able to supply someone that's of that quality. Well, it justifies the product, doesn't it? Yeah. Like, it must be, any other product was good, but having that gave me a bit of weight. And, I literally rang up Harvey Nichols Leeds and said, look, I'm doing a tasting at the Yorkshire Wine School tomorrow. It was literally the day before. I'm in the area, and I'd love the opportunity to just bring you some chocolate and see what you think. And the guy was just like, come in. Anyway, I went into Harvey Nichols before the tasting the next day, and the food hall manager was there. We're doing this tasting, but luckily the area manager was also in. at the same time. And when you've got chocolate in their building, everybody wants to come and have some chocolate, right? So we're at the till, we're doing this tasting. It's going down well, and out of nowhere, one of the customers that was in the queue buying buying her stuff from Harvey Nichols literally just picked up a bar, because she could see us talking about it and tasting it, and I had a stack of them on the counter. She literally just picked up a bar of Bullion, and I'll put one of them through as well. And then the manager was, whoa, you're not actually selling it, we're just doing a bit of a tasting. So it's cool. Almost like that was a plan, but anyway, 3 weeks later...
But it wasn't a plan.
It wasn't a plan. It was a genuine, she could see us getting excited about the product and was like, I'll stick one of those in. And, I think it was 3 weeks later we got, it was just me. I got a phone call. Can I speak to your accounts? We want to set up. And, as a small business, you're kind of wearing many hats, aren't you? The accounts, you're the marketing, you're the producer. Anyway, and that was that. We were only in the Leeds store, but it was on they had a local buying scheme. So we were the first bean-to-bar craft chocolate maker in Yorkshire. So they made a really great display, and that was our first entry at a sort of really quite high level retailer. And then, after that, moving forward, it really opened up the door for, other retailers, because I could just go, well, we supply, this, that, and then we also supply Harvey Nichols.
It's name dropping Harvey Nichols. It gives the brand credibility.
Exactly. I think that's what you've hit the nail on the head there. Credibility. So yeah.
But there's a lot of desire, isn't there? So you were cold calling the likes of Harvey Nichols, and people starting out in business probably generally don't have the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
So you clearly had the belief in the business and the product, but you also had the experience learned from previous roles.
100%, and that experience, that if I hadn't done that sales and marketing role for this software company, I would be nowhere near as confident to be able to just ring up a company and ask for that conversation. But there's an age-old saying that if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think of a lot of the things that I do with Bullion. I know we've got Chocolate Bar now, and then we've also, which is a cafe, and then we've also got the bakery. If you're willing to knock on those doors, opportunities will open. But then it's up to you to sort of act on it. And when I say act, I'm like, take the risk maybe. And that's a lot of having a business is rolling the dice, isn't it? You don't know if one of your ideas or what you're doing will succeed. But you've got to be the one that's willing to find out. But yeah, no, so 6 months into Bullion, we got Harvey Nichols, and that gave us a really good platform to then grow the business and secure future sales. And I'd say now, we now supply the likes of Waterstones. We're in Oliver Bonus, lots of farm shops.
So tell me, for our listeners, give us a good description of what your business looks like now. And then we'll come back to the middle part and how you got there.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you sell B2B, B2C? What's it look like?
It's a combination. I think, especially with if we didn't have a range of different income streams, it'd be difficult. Because if we were just selling chocolate bars B2B, the margins are quite, especially when you're selling to places like Waterstones, and they expect certain margins, and it'd be very difficult to, because of the nature of our product, we can only produce quite I think we can produce 3,000 bars a week. So it is quite tight. You've got to diversify. So we've done that by opening a bakery. So we have Bullion as the main product. And we supply a mixture of online and direct to retail. We do markets. We do all the Christmas markets. And we also have our own cafe, so we sell direct to customers that way. But in terms of B2B, if you've got a shop, we'll supply you. We do own label as well, so for hotels,
they rebrand the product.
Yeah, so it's funny because we supply the own label boss for Sheffield Wednesday, and I'm a Sheffield United fan, sort of thing. Yeah, so my family weren't too happy about that, but we ended up getting Sheffield United as well. So we're mutual. We supply both. But yeah, that's the beauty of what we do. It's chocolate's a very accessible product, so it lends itself to if people are wanting a bespoke own label product, we can deliver that. But equally, Bullion as a brand, because it's known for its quality, it's perfect for gifting. And yeah, we supply. It's high end retail, really, I'd say, and like farm shops, those sort of places.
It's premium chocolate, right?
Yeah, it's
what's a bar retailer?
So I think in the news it's really quite prominent at the moment that chocolate prices are going through the roof, and that's due to the actual cocoa bean prices going up. Our chocolate bars, when we make them, is literally just cocoa beans and cane sugar in it. So there's no like palm oil, cutting agents, anything like that. You are getting the best version or the best quality you can get out of a chocolate bar from us, and then we see it as our job as chocolate makers to sort of develop the incredible flavors from these different different origins. But in terms of a product, you can't get any. That's one of the reasons why I called it Bullion, because it's a pure bar of something special. So if you get a 70% bar from us, it's 70% cocoa beans, 30% cane sugar. That's it. But that comes at a cost when you're paying for that, when you're getting that sort of level of quality. So our bars start at around £6.50. And we do a range of drinking chocolate as well, and chocolate bar gift sets, all that sort of thing. When it comes to chocolate, we pretty much have a stab at everything. Yeah.
The business then, how many staff do you have at the minute?
So we've got I'd say across the three companies, it's sort of like.
Well, let's take it back then. So the three companies are.
So we've got Bullion Chocolate. That's got the lowest amount of staff in the. There's three of us in there's three of us that make chocolate, and then there is we have one person for doing tours and experiences. But that's all it takes for us to. I say all it takes. We're constantly. It's hard graft, making chocolate, and we, because of the capacity, we can only make 3,000 bars a week, or around 300 kilos. It takes around 3 staff members to sort of run that. When it comes to like seasonal periods like Christmas, that sort of thing, we might have made chocolate over the summer but not sold it yet. But when it comes to Christmas, we've got to wrap them all and get all the product out, and that's when we might have some temporary staff coming in. But in terms of like general staffing, three and then 4 including the tour person. We've got 3 full-time bakers, and then we've got around 12 staff members in the cafe as well.
So Bullion's the origin, and it's led to multiple other businesses.
Yeah, so Bullion's the sort of cornerstone. That's what we're known for. I needed bakes for our cafe, so and obviously I need to have my chocolate in it. So we started making bakes for ourselves, and then all of a sudden other people are like, well, can you make bakes for us? And that's kind of had a natural growth trajectory. And then the cafe, I've had a cafe for around 5 years in Cutlery Works, which is a food hall, which was great. It was the first food hall in Sheffield, but our lease came to an end there, and I was kind of on the lookout for the next site. And Leah's Yard is in Sheffield City Centre. It's part of the Heart of the City development, and it's a council initiative to sort of reinvigorate the Sheffield City Centre. And we're really proud to be part of that, and it's been an absolutely fantastic start. Loads of local people coming out and supporting us. Leah's Yard's all about supporting independent, and we're I think there's ourselves, there's an independent farm shop in there. There's all sorts of businesses, and we've kind of got this. It's almost like a drinking chocolate concept where you can actually go and build your own hot chocolate, basically. And we also do all the baked goods that go along with it. Yeah.
You're a busy man.
So keep ourselves busy.
So, on being busy, what's your work-life balance? I know I touched on it briefly at the start. What's home life like if you're working so much? I
think early, like I said, I've been at this for knocking on 10 years now, and the first 4 years of business, I was pretty much on my own. Like, I didn't have any staff. That build phase, sort of proving the concept, trying things, and that was like 7 days a week, sort of, trying to get this thing going. And it was probably, I don't want to say it's selfish towards my partner, sort of thing, but there was times where she's like, come on, can we do something?
But there's an element of that. You need to have a pinch of selfishness or sheer direction to make something successful, right? And you're always going to have guilt on one side.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's possible to get to the end goal whatever that may be, without making compromises and sacrifices. And it's more about, for me anyway, at home, it's about being a team, understanding each other.
Totally. For me, it's I think in those earlier days I was almost like obsessed with it. And it might be not a healthy thing, but I think you've got to be obsessed to some sort of level to get that sort of thing off the ground. Like, I didn't come from any money. There's like I said, we got lucky with the trademark to get some financial investment, if you want to call that, but just a bit of.
Well, even that with your own doing, pardon the pun.
It's like I said, those first 4 years were. They were difficult, but they're probably one of the most exciting times of a business as well, because you're sort of finding your lane. You've got no staff, so you only
the sale means more too, right?
Yeah. All those wins were really exciting, but now obviously now the business has grown. I'm not. Those first 4 years, I was doing everything. Had a guy, Paul, who's he came in and did 1 day a week to support me early on. Now we've got like a team, 18 people, that sort of thing. These people are paid to do a job, aren't they? And I'm very fortunate we've got a real strong management team, that's allowed me to sort of not be 7 days a week. I'm still fully into the business and fully focused on the growth of the business, but I'm not having to do everything now. Like, I'm not having to bake the brownies, or I'm not having to wrap every single chocolate bar like I was, at the start. Now, I've got an operations manager, so Annabelle, she's fantastic. She sort of comes from a place of, she's almost like a filter for me in the fact that the staff will report to her first. She's more than capable of, answering any of those day-to-day questions and running the business day-to-day. And then it frees me up to then focus on the things that matter, and that's business growth, generating revenue, the brand direction, all those sort of things that you need to be at the spearhead as a founder, as a business owner.
How do you find employing staff then? So, from my point of view, I followed my nose in business, so I never had an end goal. I didn't envisage ever taking on staff, and now we're fortunate we do have multiple staff across different sites. It's really difficult because can you ever expect somebody to want and desire and push the business and care about the business as much as yourself?
Yeah.
And it's like the impossible task to find someone who's as dedicated as you.
Yeah.
How have you found employing staff, and have you had issues? What's it look like at Bullion?
I don't think no one's ever going to be as passionate about your baby as your business as you are, first and foremost. But it's how can you articulate the vision of the company and where you're going? What's the end? Where are we going as a business? Like, what's the culture? What's the overarching goal for your business? And how can you get your team to sort of rally behind that? And if you can convey that, and if you can get if you've got a worthy mission that your team are passionate about, then they'll go in. They'll let's say, for instance, let's use Annabelle, who's my operator, as a prime example, because she's really sort of taken into the role and become aligned with the visions of the business. She can see where we're going. Like, she knows what we're trying to achieve with Bullion, with chocolate bar, and that it empowers you as if she's truly aligned, it empowers you as an employee, because you know what you need to do a good job, and it just gives us purpose. And for me, my top tip for that would be articulate your mission to your team and get everyone rallied and aligned with the end goal.
Was Annabelle the first employee?
It's funny. No, I've had. I think there was about 4 or 5 other employees before Annabelle. But Annabelle, she did a master's in entrepreneurship at Hallam University, and I went and did a talk at the university. And at the end, she came up and told me her story about wanting to start a business up on her mum and dad's farm. And I, was listening to her, and she said about having a cafe farm shop concept. And I was like, well, we've got a little bit of a cafe if you want to come and do some work experience. And so she came I think she was doing like 10 hours a week, and as the business has grown, she's just kind of just been a sponge and taken every opportunity in her stride. And also, you've got to be, not everybody's geared up for that. You've got to be a certain person that actually wants it, you know, in terms of wants that growth and wants those opportunities, because those opportunities are challenging, aren't they? And
how integral is personality over actual skills?
Like I tell, you know, I think work ethic, willing to actually try, goes a lot further. Yeah, there's these people that are geniuses, but they just can't be asked to do anything. We're very much like, we get stuck in, and I feel like one of my strengths as well is decision making. I don't really ponder, and you know, there's a million ways to do things, and I'm very good at just taking action, and you know, depending on, you know, how that action, you know, what are the results of that action, then I'll deal with it. But I'm not just going to sit around and wait for things to happen, or how, you know, it's, for me, I value sort of grit and just grinding results out and going, instead of just thinking of the possibilities, we just get stuck in.
And that's coming from you now with years and years of experience, but nobody taught, I presume nobody taught you how to manage employees, manage staff.
No, like, it's all been new for me. You know, it's like, I'm a bit of a people's person anyway. Like, I like to talk to, you know, people, find out how the staff are getting on, that sort of thing. I'm a big believer as well in, like, sort of, you know, setting the expectations of the role, but I'm employing these people because they're better than me at these things, right? So I can support, I can do what I can, but ultimately, you know, these people are professionals at what they do at the management level. And, you know, obviously, you know, a junior person, like a student that's working in the coffee shop, it's up to us to train them to be them where we need to be. But in terms of like these higher level positions, the reason they're in those positions is because they're better than me, and I'm, you know,
you have to be in business to develop and grow and scale up.
You've got to let go at some point, right? And you've got to come to terms that, you know, even though you're going to be very protective of your business and all aspects of your business, but as soon as you find, you know, I think trusting someone to do the job's a big thing as well, isn't it? Because you know that you'll get the job done, but trusting someone else to do it, will they do as good a job or they? But you know, if you can do a good hiring process, and if you can pick people that, like you said, resonate or align with the visions of the company and are on board with that, they'll do the right thing. And if not, you'll support them to get them to where they need to be. But staffing's so important. It's the biggest thing. It's your biggest cost. It's the thing that will make and break the vision if the people are on board. And in an ideal world, you'd have a team of A players. You know, that would be dangerous. But if you haven't got a team of A players, you've got to help them become A player, and it's all about you facilitating that sort of growth. And
in time, you become, or you change from being the chocolate maker to the overseer, right? Yeah.
So for me, I'll still get stuck in if needed, sort of thing. But my chocolate maker team are like, they know my time is better spent, or they for me, if they can see deals coming in and chocolate, they know I'm doing a good job, right? And that's not going to happen if I'm sat, you know, wrapping chocolate bars, you know. And even though wrapping chocolate bars is super important, and that's the thing, you know, at the end of the day, it's part of the process. We need to do these things to get the product out. But ultimately, if we're not selling any chocolate, then we didn't need to wrap the chocolate bar in the first place. So my time is better spent in other areas that develop growth and develop the opportunities for the team. Because the only way the team members grow is if you grow the company. That's what I'd say on that. So yeah, I'm not in the day-to-day. I'm not on the day-to-day tasks anymore. I'm more of like a holistic sort of overarching position now that's focused on growth.
What's growth look like then at the minute? So have you got projects going on?
Yeah, so we're hoping to open another chocolate bar site this year. We've had the success of chocolate bar, the initial, you know, that we've just opened in Liège has been huge.
That's a cool name for a bar that sells chocolate, right?
And, you know, incredibly, the trademark chocolate bar was available. So, you know, again, going back to your trademarks, make sure you always get them locked up. But, yeah, so chocolate bar, for what we're trying to achieve with chocolate, was obviously something you eat, but also chocolate bar could be somewhere you could drink. And we've sort of honed in on that, created a really cool brand. I'd say it's a very accessible brand, and my overarching goal for chocolate bar is to make craft chocolate accessible. That is what we're trying to do with. So it's high street locations where everyday people can come, and whether they know it or not, they're going to have an incredible product. There's good quality. It's been ethically made. It ticks all the boxes. And typically they'll have gone to a high street coffee shop and they'll just add a hot chocolate, and it might not have been made in the best, whether you say ethically made the best way, or all the best quality of ingredients. And I can do it with chocolate at the same, or maybe even cheaper price. And they can come knowing that they're going to get something of a next level quality. So for me, making craft chocolate accessible is a number one goal for Chocolate Bar. And that means opening more sites. I think we've got a really good model for it, a scalable model. So I'm going to be focused on the growth of that. Whereas Bullion is obviously the craft chocolate. So that's all about producing as best craft chocolate as a product as possible. We want to become.
So Bullion chocolate will then supply Chocolate Bar.
Yeah. So Bullion
and Chocolate Bar will hopefully grow, and you have multiple sites.
And chocolate and Bullion will be supplying that growth, and
they grow together.
They grow together
naturally.
And the bakery as well. So all the baked goods we supply. I own the bakery as well, so we have full control over what we produce. But again, that business will grow as these sites grow. So that's somewhere I can see the business going.
It's quite genius because your end source is the chocolate bar. So not literally the bar itself, the cafe, let's say. But you're not going to suppliers; you're going to yourself for supplies, which is just quite.
Yeah. So 70%, I'd say, of what we sell sells to the companies that it's almost like circular, economy, isn't it? So we're generating revenue for the other two businesses from this business, which would have gone, to other businesses. So it's really, it's a good position to be in. But on the other hand of that, we have full control over the quality. We've got something that's unique to us because no one else, there isn't anything like Chocolate Bar. It just doesn't exist. No one can make craft chocolate accessible like that because the margins are so tight. But because we own the entire supply chain, obviously not growing the beans, but in terms of the production and the retail of it, we can do it. So I'm really excited about Chocolate Bar and how that's going to grow. But then for Bullion, I want Bullion to be an iconic British chocolate maker. That's my sort of dream for Bullion. So working with the likes of Harvey Nichols, Waterstone, that all cements that. I'd say
Roald Dahl.
Yeah, that's probably when we hit that really hit that mission home. So we make all the own label bars for Roald Dahl's museum,
that's amazing.
So obviously he did Willy Wonka, and his family have created this amazing centre where people can go and see all these original works and see the story of Roald Dahl, basically, that's done the classics like Matilda.
That's the pinnacle of supplying chocolate.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, for us to get asked to make the chocolate for the guy that wrote the books and inspired so many people, about open up, chocolate to the world, basically, and that magic and that mystique around a chocolate factory, they captured that. And for us to be, we're effectively their Oompa Loompas now, aren't we? Making the chocolate, a bit of a bigger Oompa Loompa, I think. But for us to get that gig, it cements the sort of what we're doing, but B, A as in like the vision, like being a British chocolate maker, but B, it's almost like, it's the kudos from that, like, to get that deal was fantastic. So we're really proud of that one. Yeah.
Finances, I'm not going to delve into your finances, but with growth, it doesn't necessarily mean growth of profit, does it?
No.
I remember, just briefly, starting out making the first sales, and it was amazing, and your bank would just grow, and you haven't got overheads like units, shops, staff. It just doesn't exist. So initially it's like, whoa, and then in my experience anyway, the further you get into business and the growth comes with overheads, doesn't it? And what's it look like at Bullion in terms of that?
Probably the single biggest challenge you'll have as a business is cash flow, and cash allows you to do things. You can have all these ideas, but if you've not got cash flow, you can't act on any of them. So cash can come from investment, it can come from all these different ways, but day to day, operations for us as Bullion, chocolate's very seasonal. So we'll find that like January time, we've got really good cash flow because of Christmas. But you've got to think when we go into those summer months, chocolate just doesn't sell as well in these hotter months as it does in winter.
That's interesting.
But B, you're also, over the summer months, you're producing all the chocolate for Christmas. And every year, your Christmas will get bigger and bigger because your brand's you're getting more awareness. But the problem with that is, it's your lowest point of year from a cash flow perspective because you're not generating any, you're generating minimal sales. But then you're having to fund the growth for next year with to make all the stock for Christmas that you're about to sell. And every summer, for me, it's always a very stressful thing because I'm trying to finance that growth, but yeah, cash flow is hard. So it's like how can you navigate that? And that'll be your single biggest challenge for growing a business. Like I don't think for the last 10 years on our accounts we've never we've made a very small profit each year because I've ploughed all the money that we've made into growth. But every year we've generated an extra 200 grand year on year from us keeping the money in to facilitate that growth. But on paper it looks like we're just breaking even, but have a look at the turnover, and that's the important thing, that you're actually growing as a business.
Yeah, I think that's what I were after in terms of information from yourself, because growth, just quite simply, you don't know when it's going to end. You've got to strategically plan for growth, but in doing so, you invest everything that you've got almost. Yeah. So it's a risky game. So that leads me on to tell me about some risks that you've taken.
Yeah. So a bit busy. You always feel like you're rolling the dice when you've got a business, don't you? Like it's always very, for me, especially with those seasonal periods, I always feel like we're never in a comfortable position when we're always trying to grow. I think if we just were happy with our lot and just stayed where we are, it would be considered a safer business, right? But you're right, with over the summer I opened Chocolate Bar, so it opened in August, on the 24th of August, and obviously which is a back end of the summer. So we've just gone through that period I was talking about of not really having much cash, and the fit out for Chocolate Bar was around £30,000, I think, to build that cafe and get it open. So obviously I've got all the other things in motion as well, like the bakery and the chocolate factory. And then I've also got to fund this fit out. So I raised some funds. We did a Kickstarter, which we asked for support in the form of rewards, which was really we were really successful at that. We generated 12,000 from that, and I took a bounce back loan out, which is a government backed loan with a higher interest rate, but they'll lend. If you've not got a job, people don't want to lend you any money, basically. Yeah. So that's one way of getting some finances. And then
these are all risks, right?
Yeah,
yeah. If it doesn't come off, then you'll
that's it. And then 10 grand of my own money. And I remember, I remember the week before we were opening, it was Louisa's 30th birthday. And we'd had this booked in for ages. We were going to Sicily for her 30th birthday, and to be fair, Liège was meant to be open in May, and it kept getting pushed back and pushed back. And lo and behold, the same weekend that it opens, I was away we were away for Louisa's birthday. But I remember going on that holiday. We went on the 21st. We were open on the 24th of August, but I had 500 quid in my bank account. So I was going away having no control whether the launch would be successful. I'd put 30 grand into this business and had everything on the line. And I knew that I had 17 grand in wages to pay on the end of the month. So I had, 11, 12 days or something to generate. And there's, what if Chocolate Bar opened and it didn't work? So, it did mentally that was like a challenging time, because you start doubting yourself. Do you know, when you've got no money and you've got this, and I'm sort of thinking, well, at the start I was quite confident when I had 30 grand in my bank. I was like, yeah, this will work. But when you get closer to the line, you've got everything in, and
every step forward is new, isn't it? So you don't know what to expect.
And it was. I had no idea. I mean, I like I said, it was a calculate. You've got to make calculated risks. So you can't just do something expecting it. It was a good location. We had a really good fit out. We've got a really good product, and we've got a well-known brand in the area. So for me, it was enough to pull the trigger on. but you do start doubting yourself when everything's on the line. And it opened, and thank God that it was a success. Like we did, we paid everybody's wages, of course, sort of thing. But it went on to do. I think we did something like 14 grand in that opening week.
Wow.
And that's on hot chocolate and cake and that sort of thing.
That's when you wipe the sweat off, right?
Yeah, that was like, I was like, oh, God, we did it. It was that sort of worry that was overhanging, that sort of, that what if it failed was kind of gone. It was a sigh of relief, like you said. But anyway,
I can completely relate, and this is why I asked you the question at the start, like, is it just easier? Are you a happier person in life if you just work 9 to 5 somewhere, do your job, work hard, and then forget about it? And if you ask me, I wouldn't change what I do for the world. And I'm taking you're the same by what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there's something in that, isn't there, that you are constantly sweating about something.
There's got to be something wrong with us, Luke, hasn't there?
Yeah.
To be signing yourself up for that.
You have to be wired a certain way, don't you? But
Yeah.
I honestly, especially recently, I just think, what would life look like if it weren't like this? Because I am working till after clock at night, and I am stressing about sustainability and risks and projects, and it's just never ending. But then you bring it on yourself. I take too much on purposely. It's a strange one, and the more people I talk to, you sort of find that everyone's the same, really. You just have a desire. You don't truly know why. Yeah. Do you have an exit strategy then? Is there an end goal to this?
Do you know, I think people should always have an exit strategy. Like for me, I've kind of got some goals that I want to achieve with the business. So, obviously chocolate bar is relatively new, so that's got its own growth strategy. But if we're just talking about Bullion, I want it to be an iconic British chocolate maker. So that's what's getting me out of bed in the morning. That's what's giving me purpose. And in terms of the exit, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if whether it's.
I'll tell you where I stand on it, because I don't have an exit strategy. And my business, I'm front facing, so it's Luke Horton. So it'd be hard for someone to take over Luke Horton Art, wouldn't it? But because I never set out to, I'd always try to start businesses outside of my 9 till 5, but I never set out to make Luke Horton Art what it was. I was just doodling, and it took off. You, at an early age, knew that you wanted to start business. Bullion currently doesn't have an exit strategy in terms of in 2030 I'm going to sell up or something like that. So for someone who's quite calculated and strategic, it's quite nice to hear that you don't have an exit strategy of such. It's there and it's going to come about. But
the thing is, like, I've kind of asked, what else would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? And like you said, your brand's very personal to you. I've become very. I don't know if it's a good thing if I'm like, the brand has become very personal to me, because I think, then you start, I don't know if that's a strength or not, but like a lot of the way that the business looks and the branding is because that's the things that I like, and that's the way, it's kind of come about, and the menu is because of the things that I like. And maybe I do need to be a bit more strategic in terms of the planning and maybe look at data to make these decisions, but a lot of it's like gut, isn't it? But 10 years down the line, does someone come and buy Bullion? I don't know. If somebody offered me,
and you're okay not worrying about it.
Yeah, because for me the goal isn't to sell out. The goal is to make an iconic British chocolate. I want us to be like in terms of craft chocolate, I want us to be the one. I want it to. If you think of craft chocolate, I want you to think of Bullion. Like, I know Brewdog, you'd argue that they're not really craft. The scale that they are now, are they really craft beer? Because they went up against the likes of Heineken's and Coors, but now they're probably a similar size to that. So for me, I know where I'm going. What that looks like at the end, I don't know. And you've got to, if somebody starts dangling 5 million in front of you and things, you've got to be, I don't know how you'll be in that moment, but I know that I can't compromise the brand either, because if I, like for instance, Hotel Chocolate, they've just been bought out for 500 million to I don't know if it's Mondelez or something like that, one of these huge brands, which is everything that we are not. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's all right saying to me, my goal is to be an iconic British craft chocolate brand, but then if the company that I sell it to compromises that, what was the point?
Yeah.
So you've got to be asking yourself, then it won't be the mission's
the
lost.
The point would be that you'd have 5 million in your bank, but what's nice is that you're saying what overrides that is that you want it to exist as.
Yeah, as soon as you sell it, is it that point? Is it craft chocolate anymore? Is it what we are set at? It's all right getting to that point and then just getting rid of it. It would have to, the stars would have to align in terms of the right buyer. But that's even if we're talking a lot of what ifs here. For me, focus on the job at hand. But I'm never going to compromise the vision of what Bullion is just because of money.
Yeah,
I think that's probably.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. Highs and lows. What's in life? What's your biggest? Let's start with your low point. Business, life. Anything that shaped you.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Running a business it's like a roller coaster of emotions, isn't it? Like, win some deals and it's super, it's all happy days, but there is those periods where money isn't coming in, or like you might have had a rough week, and like for us, Chocolate Bar, we had the first bit of sun, even though we sell like ice drinks and beer and wine and that's that you would drink in the summer, but we had our first bit of sun. It was almost like nobody wanted. I'd say our sales dropped 40% in that week, and we're lucky that we live in a country where it's raining, most of the time. But yeah, like, I'm kind of thinking, oh my god, what's going on, sort of thing, and that there's always highs and lows, and but I think as a business owner, it's kind of how you react and your sort of mindset in terms of how you deal with that. So I'm ever the optimist, I think, and
you come across that way.
Yeah, if you give me a problem, I'm always kind of thinking, what are we going to do about it? I'm never just going to sit there and just dwell, or we're just going to bicker about it, because that doesn't help anybody. For me, if we've got a problem and there's something that needs doing, it's always about what are the action points to sort of navigate this, and that is kind of my the way that we do everything at Bullion. So. We don't have problems. We have solutions. That's the sort of headset that we kind of go in with. Yeah.
Have you ever made a mistake? It's crucial to the way that Bullion's been shaped.
I think as a business owner, you've got to make decisions, haven't you? And acting is better than not doing anything at all. But sometimes you can make decisions that impact things for better or for worse. And I think you've just got to realise you made that decision, and if there is a consequence at the end of it, let's deal with it. It's hard to pick out, an instance where it's kind of like you really messed up, because I've always kind of, I'm never like sat there going, oh God, what am I going to, for me, every day there's slip-ups, I think.
It's a hot topic in business, isn't it? Because
I think for me,
failure is good, right?
Yeah, you learn lessons, and, I think that's the best way to look at it. So I'm never like one to just sit there and, like you said, dwell on these mistakes. It's always about what we can do to sort of overcome it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. As we're near the end, is there anything that you compromise on?
I think the time is but I am getting better at that. I've now got weekends off, which is still chip at a few bits and bobs, but
that's a nice stage to get to.
Yeah, it's been good that I've been able to. The business has been able to allow me to do that, so that's good. I think sometimes potentially my health, because I am, I'm busy, and sometimes you can go for convenience, and is there time to go and be active and go to the gym? Like, I think when you've got to make time for those sort of things, haven't you? And I've been quite selfish that I have just kind of gone all in on business. So, because that was my priority, and I think a priority is health, and I probably need to be more aware of that and actively take steps to sort of make myself perform better as a business, but also perform better in myself as well.
And it's so easy to say that, but actually,
it's hard.
are you going to make those changes?
It's hard. Like, that's something I know that's on my thing to sort. But you're right. How do you work that into your lifestyle?
Ends up on the back burner, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I'm in the first steps. I'm acknowledging that I need to be more healthier. And
I was formerly a personal trainer, and I just couldn't accept that anyone. I used to work with nutrition and weight loss courses, and I couldn't accept why or how anyone wouldn't be able to make sure that they pre-plan their meals and ate at the right time and so on. I just couldn't perceive how that was not possible.
You were living it though, right?
That was the thing. I was living it, and that was my only concern. Now that I run multiple businesses, it's on the back burner for me, and I don't like that because I know how important it is.
Yeah.
But I now understand from the other side that can you have great success without compromising on other things like that? I don't know.
It's a balance, isn't it? And I think it's whatever your priority. Like I said, you can prioritize all sort of things, and if you want to do something, you'll make time for it. But like you said, that's easier said than done when you've got a business that's got costs, it's got staff, and you want to do everything in your power to make sure that's a success. But then you kind of feel a bit selfish. Go, well, can I squeeze off, go to the gym, or sort of, or can I go and play around a golf? Is it a bit of a guilt thing as well, like thinking that you should be working all the time? There's a lot of sort of ins and outs of what why we make a decision on these things, but ultimately you need to prioritize these things. And I'm a big believer in like sort of writing like a schedule down for the day, so like what I'm going to achieve that day, because if you look at a list of tasks for the week, can be quite overwhelming. But and then you might be coming up with excuses like, I can't go golfing, I can't go to the gym. But actually, if you plan a day like, I've got the podcast with Luke at 11, I've got a meeting at 1 o'clock, I've got so and so at 3. Actually, I'm going to make time for the gym on the way home. But if that's just part of the day and that's the routine, can we plan better to make that just become part of our lifestyle? Maybe, but you're not preaching to the converted. I need to learn a lesson myself as well.
You're full of energy. I get really good vibes from you. Are you always happy? Are you like this at home? Is it a persona at work? What's mental health wise? What's Max like at home? What does the business have effect on?
I think if things are going well and we're in a good place, like financially, the business is running well, performing well, then there's no reason for me to sort of like be not non-negative, but just not just I don't think being negative helps anybody, sort of thing. But I'm saying that when it's positive, but when you're in like the gutter and things are going tough, how do you maintain that sort of upbeat attitude and like, come on, we can do this? I'd be lying if I said that I'd not struggled with my own challenges in the fact that like Joe, when I was speaking about the chocolate bar example, and we had 500 quid in the thing, not knowing if things were going to go well, like that made me into a bit of like a shell of a man in terms of processing it, like the weight of it, the worry of it. And I remember I was doing a Claire, our factory tour, she was off that week, and I went and I was like, I'll do it. I'll just, I can. And I remember I went and did this tour, and all this group of people were, there was 10 of them all stood there, and I went to go and deliver the tour, and then I just almost like froze, and it was almost like, I don't want to say a panic sort of thing, but I was like, even though I was telling myself that like I can be that confident person and everything's fine, and but ultimately I had a lot of pressure on me to make sure that place was a success with Chocolate Bar and funding it and that sort of thing. But so I'm telling myself that's fine. Obviously it's not fine, and I'm trying to be this confident, happy person on the factory tour, and I just like had a blip, and I ended up just saying to the guys, like, I'm going to be off the level with you guys. I've got a lot on at the moment, and I don't know why, but I can't seem to gather my thoughts. And anyway, I ended up coming round, and we had a great time. We had a fantastic tour, but it can get the better of anybody, that sort of thing. So it is really important to be healthy in your mind as well, I think. And again, that's easier said than done. If you're going through a difficult period and there is weight on you and there is stresses, to be that person that's like, I'm going to get out and go to work anyway. You've got to be a strong person. And, you know, where do we develop those characteristics from? You know, is it your attitude on life? Is it something you can learn? Is it the way you're brought up? I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that go into the recipe of someone that's headstrong. But it got even me, you know, it can catch you out. Yeah.
Max, it's been a pleasure.
No, thanks for having me, Lou.
Thanks for coming on.